New market news now. China stocks closed down on Wednesday following a strong rally in the previous session. This as investors were cautious, awaiting additional government stimulus measures, while Hong Kong shares were up marginally. Hong Kong's Hang Seng index rose by 0.2%. The benchmark Nikkei 225 was marginally down, ending at 38,444.58. The S&P 500 closed a tad higher, while the Nasdaq dipped after a volatile session as investors gauged inflation data and braced for quarterly earnings reports to justify stock valuations and strength of the U.S. economy. Equities received an initial lift from a Labor Department report that showed the producer price index rose less than expected in December, although the report failed to materially affect expectations about the Federal Reserve's likely path of monetary policy this year. But early gains evaporated as investors awaited consumer price index reading expected later today, which will further shape expectation for the inflation as well as the Fed. The S&P 500 gained 0.1%, while the Nasdaq Composite Index lost 0.2%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 0.5% to 42,518. Coming back home, the JSE trading firm taking its cue from firm global markets. The all-share index, as you can see, up 0.6% at 82,630. When you turn attention to the currencies, the rand is stronger at this moment at 18 rands 87 against the US dollar. It's at 19 rands 44 to the euro and at 23.05 against the pound. Taking a look at our commodities, the gold price is currently standing at $2,685 an ounce, while platinum is sitting at $934 an ounce, while the Brent crude oil is at $80.30 per barrel. Chantal Marx, an investment research head at FNB Wealth Investment, is our market commentator for today. Chantal, thank you so much for your time and welcome to On Point. Chantal does join us via telephone. Chantal, the U.S. earnings season gets underway. What can we expect from this, and how is it likely to impact on the local and domestic market?
Hi, yes. So we've had a few companies reporting results so far, and so far it's been better than expected. But U.S. earnings season really kicks off in full swing this week because most of the big banks in the U.S. will be reporting results. So far, the expectation is that we're going to have a bumper earnings season, about 11% earnings growth overall for the S&P 500 index. I think if it disappoints, we could see a negative overall equity market reaction globally. Of course, the opposite is also true, so we are hoping for really strong results.
Yeah. Karoo released their results today, and they reported quarterly adjusted earnings per share that went up 21% year on year. But it is their subscribers, their Cartrack subscribers, that caught my attention, that have gone up by 17%. What does that tell us, about motorists and also the rate at which people are putting in Cartrack devices in their cars? Maybe a reflection of the crime in the country?
Yeah, so I think to a certain extent you would expect motorists in their personal vehicles to be taking up these tracking devices. We've seen this trend over the last few years. But I think more notably where we're seeing a lot of growth in Cartrack subscribers is actually from the logistics industry, both in South Africa and outside of South Africa, where the technology is quite new. So these companies use these logistics tracking devices in order to improve the efficiency of their fleets. And that's really where I think the growth came from, and probably where the growth is going to come from in future as well.
Yeah, having a double-digit growth of 21% in headline earnings, Karoo looks like it's a company that has a lot of moving parts. What is significant for our viewers to note about the company that they should keep an eye on and maybe learn a thing or two about?
Yes, I mean, I think the important thing to remember about this company is even though Cartrack makes up a big part of it, there are other businesses within the Karoo stable as well. And even though we know Cartrack very well in South Africa and it already has a big market presence here, this type of technology isn't available everywhere. And Karoo actually has operations across the world, and that's where most of their growth is going to come from. They've seen some really good take-up in the Asia-Pacific region as well as in the U.S., and some of their biggest competitors, also South African companies like Altron Netstar, as well as Mix Telematics, are also the leaders in terms of bringing that technology to the rest of the world.
Yeah. Chantal, at the beginning of this week, we saw that the rand, it was at around 19 to the US dollar, and it has since strengthened slightly to 18 rands 87 against the dollar. And considering that we're going to have U.S. inflation numbers today and other data, how likely is that this number could move either way, and what would that mean for the local markets?
Yes, so we've seen some renewed rand strength in the last couple of days because U.S. producer inflation was actually cooler than expected. So if we see a miss on CPI for the U.S. to the downside, so if it's lower than expected, we would actually anticipate a weakening of the dollar and a strengthening of the rand. The opposite is also true. If CPI is a little bit higher than expected in the U.S., then we would expect the U.S. dollar to strengthen, because that means that interest rate cuts are even less, or further interest rate cuts are even less likely.
Chantal Marx, thank you so much for your time, for being our market commentator for today on Point. Chantal is with FNB Wealth Investment, and she's the investment research head.